Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990's Represent. We're in our sixth cycle of 1990, talking about a movie. In this episode, we're talking about GoodFellas, so the Martin Scorsese masterpiece starring Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, and Joe Pesci. Just an incredible film. I think I first watched this maybe in the year 2000 because I picked it up on DVD shortly after getting my first DVD player. Kind of wanted to build up a film collection. I remember hearing and reading a lot of really good things about Goodfellas at the time. And I remember, getting a bunch of Oscar buzz during the 1991 awards. So I picked up the DVD. Absolutely loved the film. There are several just scenes that kind of just have just stuck with me over the years. I've seen it several times. Most recently rewatched it on Netflix, so it may still be on there. But I've seen it on like I said, DVD initially, and then I think maybe DVD again at some point, and then most recently I streamed it. But just a classic film from Martin Scorsese, one of, if not his best film. This and another great mob film, which I may cover at some point in a cycle in 1995, is Casino. Casino's also really good. I've never seen Goodfellas in a theater though. Casino I did see in a theater within the last couple years. There was a late night showing of Casino at one point, which was really good. But anyway, back to Goodfellas. I got my notes here. We're gonna go through those notes, talk about a few things about the movie, talk about the plot, and all that. So let me just crack this notebook open here first. There we go. So we have Goodfellas. Depending on when, so it has two release dates. So released September 9th. I think that was at the Venice Film Festival, and its kind of wide North American or United States release was September 19th, 1990. This is adapted from, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Nicholas Pileggi's book Wise Guy, which kind of recounts Henry Hill's life in the mob and things like that. And before we get into anything else, if you haven't seen the movie, I would recommend watching the movie first before continuing this video. Like I said in the Fight Club video recently, I kind of work under the assumption that people that are watching these videos have probably already seen the movies that we're talking about. So if you haven't seen Goodfellas, go watch it. Like I said, it's on Netflix right now, or at least should be. That's where I watched it. But based on Nicholas Pileggi's book Wise Guy, and the whole thing is Henry Hill eventually turns on the mob and becomes an FBI, basically testifies against them. That's the very end of the film. And it kind of does the recap where it's Henry Hill testified and these things happened because of it. So that's kind of the major kind of twist of the story, based on obviously real life events. The film spans let's see if my math is right, 25-year time period from 1955 to 1980. Yeah, 25 years. That's how math works, I guess. So yeah, it starts off in Brooklyn in the mid-50s, and then by the time Henry Hill has been, I think he gets arrested toward the end of the movie, and is given the choice to do this, basically testifying against Paul Sorvino's character and Robert De Niro's character, because I think by that point in the movie, Joe Pesci's character is already out of the picture. But movie stars, obviously Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, and Joe Pesci. Really cool thing I was reading about during my research for this video was to kind of get ready for their roles. The three main actors went to Nicholas Pileggi to kind of just get any information they could about the people that their characters were based on and things like that. They would just have conversations. They would ad-lib a lot of dialogue together that wasn't in the script. Martin Scorsese took that ad-lib dialogue, I think I basically transcribed it and kind of cherry-picked the best moments of whatever Liotta, De Niro, and Pesci were kind of talking about, and inserted those into the main script. So one thing with a lot of mob movies, and also particularly Scorsese's mob movies, is the dialogue is all feels very organic, and also like I think like Quentin Tarantino is also very good at creating like actual what could be actual feasible conversations. So the dialogue may not necessarily like move the plot along, but it makes the world that they're inhabiting seem like more real. So they got a lot of that from those sessions when they were hanging out with Pileggi to then, like I said, Scorsese then picked the best moments of with all those ad-libbing that they were doing and worked those into the movie, which is really cool. Let's see here. Basically came out to critical acclaim. It ended up only winning one Academy Award. It was nominated for like a ton. We'll get to those a little bit later in the video because I have a list of them. But Joe Pesci is the only person that won an Academy Award for this movie, or the only Academy Award that this movie won was for his performance. The funny thing is like I think it's like one of, if not the shortest Oscar acceptance speeches of all time. He just like walks up, he's like, "Thank you," and turns around. It's great. I'll try to find a video of it, and I'll leave a link in the description to check out Joe Pesci's acceptance speech. Apparently, Scorsese did not intend to make another mafia movie or another mob movie, but this book came out, and he said he saw like some good reviews about it, which kind of then made him change his mind. I'm glad he did because this is one of his best movies and one of the best kind of just mob movies like out there, I think. There's a lot of kind of they're like kind of dark humor moments, like the whole scene where it's one of the more iconic scenes is Leota is laughing, and that meme of the guy that's laughing like hysterically is actually from this movie. I kind of forgot that was actually from this. But he's like, "Oh, you're really funny, Tommy." He's like, "Funny how? Funny I'm a clown? Like I'm here to amuse you?" He's like, "No. What's so funny about me?" Like that whole scene is just fantastic. There's kind of the scene where they get rid of Samuel L. Jackson's character. He's got a very small part in this movie. He's like, "Yeah, we're about 2 hours late. You'd be late to your own funeral." And then the guy's like grabbing the coffee. He's like, "Why are you bringing the coffee?" He's like, "Who brings the coffee?" It's like, because like the guy who's with Pesci in that scene goes in and starts making coffee, and he's like bringing the coffee pot with him, and Pesci's like, "Why are you bringing the coffee pot?" That scene is kind of hilarious too. Let's see where we're at here. Oh, I kind of forgot like the sequence of events because some of the stuff it's not all presented linearly. Like at the beginning of the movie, we have this car. They're driving a car, and they pull over, and the guy that they thought was dead in the trunk is not dead, and then they end up actually like stabbing him and shooting him again to make sure he's dead. And then it does a whole flashback to prior to that scene, where it's a whole kind of recap of Henry Hill's like origin story, so to speak. And then it gets to that part of the movie where it gets to the kind of the intro of the movie, and then it goes from there after that. So it's not all presented like in a linear fashion, which is kind of cool. And I totally had forgotten that De Niro like is like we meet his character somewhat early on, but then he's absent from a huge chunk of this movie, like kind of to the port, like basically like reemerges when they do the big the big heist. Because I know like this, like right after that heist happens, a couple of the associates that were doing the heist with him show up, and they were like, one guy had like bought a car under his mom's name or mother-in-law's name. One guy had bought like a nice like mink coat for his wife. He's like, I told y'all to like not spend a lot of money like right after we do this and not draw suspicion. And then he's in the movie pretty much the rest of the way. He's got this hilarious scene where he's like, Henry Hill is giving De Niro's character a bunch of silencers that don't fit. He's like, these don't fit. What the heck is going on? And it's like, he's like in like a bathrobe. Like De Niro's character is in a bathrobe smoking a cigarette, and he's just like, I'm not buying these. Take them back. It's just kind of a great scene. Let me actually bring up the Academy Award list now. For this, let me just pull this down. All right, so it only won one award, but it was nominated for a ton of other stuff from the Academy Awards. So let me see how many awards it was nominated for. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nominated for 6, only won 1. So it was nominated for Best Picture. Didn't win that. Nominated for Best Director. I think Scorsese eventually got Best Director for like The Departed, but it had long overdue at that point. Supporting Actor, which was won by Joe Pesci. Supporting actress Lorraine Bracco was nominated for playing. She plays Henry Hill's wife in the movie. Was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, by Martin Scorsese and Nicholas Pileggi, and then it was nominated for Best Film Editing by Thelma Schumacher. The interesting thing about the editing, and I didn't, I had started this movie one night and went to talk to somebody about every week we get together, we talk about like what we've seen, and I had only gotten halfway through the movie because I started it kind of late on whatever night it was, and went in, and he's like, oh well, the editing gets really kind of sporadic, like toward the end of the movie because one whole thing with Paul Sorvino's character is like, hey, like do what you got to do, but just don't get involved with drugs, and that's kind of like a whole thing. Paul Sorvino's character, like, don't get involved with doing them, don't get involved with like selling them and stuff like that, because he's like they're in prison at one point. He's like, hey, this one guy's is in there he's in there for like 10 years for drugs, so just like stay away from them. They obviously don't. The whole like, but then the editing gets really kind of just sporadic when Henry Hill and his wife are just kind of like strung out, and there's like a scene where he's like, Henry Hill's going through like all the stuff he's got to do in a day. He's like, I got to go here and do this. I got to go back home and do that. I got to make the dinner. I got to then do this and deliver these guns to De Niro's character. And he's completely like strung out, and the editing is very sporadic. So I don't know if I would have noticed that without a friend of mine mentioning that to me. So that was really cool. So now we got through all that bit of it. We're going to get into the plot. And the plot, there's a lot of moving parts in this movie, so I may jump around quite a bit. And the film actually does jump around too. So beginning the film, we have our three main characters just driving down the road at night in a car. They hear something moving around in the trunk. They pull over, open the trunk, and realize that the guy that they killed is still alive. Like, they beat the guy up really badly, but he's not dead, and then he gets like stabbed and shot. So they basically do ensure that the character is dead at that point. And then it jumps back to 1955 I believe it's in Brooklyn, and it's Ray Liotta doing a voiceover, saying he's like kind of like ever since I was a little kid, I just wanted to be a gangster, or whatever the line was. And then it goes into his whole kind of upbringing. He started working for Paul Sorvino's character, Paulie, who has like the cab stand, and his father obviously disapproves. Henry Hill's father, I should say, disapproves of what goes on at the cab stand, because he's like, everybody kind of knows what's going on, but nobody, like, they're smart enough to like not get caught, basically. So he ends up starting to do a bunch of stuff for Paul Sorvino's character. Basically works as a fence for a while, doing stuff like that. And then one day, I guess, you see a scene where Henry Hill walks into his house, and he's like, his dad's like, "Hey, how was school?" And he's like, "You learned a lot today." And then he's like, "We got a letter from the school. Says you haven't been there in months." And then he's like, "In months?" And then he like starts beating on Henry Hill. And then at one point, Henry Hill points out to people in Paulie's crew, he's like, "No, that's the guy who delivered the letter." And they go up to the postman that delivered it, and it's like, they bring him to the kind of the cab stand. They're like, "Hey, any letter from the school that's going there, send it here." Because basically, if that guy had never delivered the letter, Henry Hill would have never gotten beaten up by his dad, and so on. So then he kind of meets De Niro's character. I think it's Jimmy Conway in the book. Let me actually just bring up the cast list, because they did change the names slightly. So we have Ray Liotta as Henry Hill. Yeah, so we have Jimmy Conway as the character in the movie, played by De Niro, and then Joe Pesci is Tommy DeVito. So those are our three kind of main characters. So he meets up with Tommy, and then Tommy is kind of they're like, there's a scene at a restaurant, and like everybody's kind of like living life well, like they're making money, they're kind of celebrating, they're doing heists, they're doing robberies, all kinds of stuff. And that's the scene where like you have how am I funny? Am I a clown? I'm here to amuse you. And he's kind of just busted Henry Hill's chops, kind of like busted his balls a bit. And eventually he's like, I almost had you. I almost had you. At one point in the movie, Tommy wants to go out with, I forget the character's name, but he's like, "Hey, this lady, like, I want to go out with this lady, but she won't go out with me unless like you go out with us as well with a date. So like find a date." and like we'll go on a double date, and that's where he meets Karen, who is eventually becomes his wife in the film. So and obviously Karen's parents obviously disapprove of him because they know that he's like in the mob and stuff like that. So they or his mom like certainly disapproves. Um, they just do a bunch of other kind of like crime stuff, and then the thing that kind of sets the a lot of the other parts of the movie into motion are they're at a club. I think Henry Hill owns the club, and they're all there. And there's another guy there and his crew, Billy Bats, and I don't think he's seen Tommy for a while. So he's like, "Hey Tommy, like how you been? Like it's like a long time no see, kind of stuff." And he's like, "I remember when you used to shine shoes down the street. Like you were the best shoe shiner, and like we had it." And then like, and that set off Tommy sets off Joe Pesci's character. He's like, "Hey, like don't mention that. Like let's just like have a drink." And like everybody's like, "Okay, cool, we're cool." And then they kind of chill for a second. The guy like takes a sip of his drink. He puts the drink down. He's like, now go get your effing shine box. And that he did that like I think the first time it was probably like an honest mistake. He's like, hey, I didn't know you didn't want us to talk about your past like that. But then the second time he did it, he obviously was like inviting trouble. So they eventually beat this guy up really badly. They throw him in the trunk of a car, and they bring him to it, and that's kind of where the movie starts. Like they notice that he's still alive in the trunk, and then they finish him off. They bury him. But the funny thing is, so they bury him, but then they find out that the property that they buried him on is going to be developed at some point in the future, like pretty soon. So they have to go and dig the body back up, and it's like there's like a whole few where they're like, oh my god, this smells terrible, this smells terrible. And like there's like Henry Hill spraying out his trunk of his car. He's like, and Karen's like, what happened? He's like, hey, he's like, I hit a skunk, just like let's like relax a little bit. He's like, we'll take care of this. Paul Sorvino's character, I think, at some party mentions like, hey, like Billy Bats hasn't been seen for a while, and people were saying like the last time they saw him was at your club, and he's talking to Henry Hill at this point. And the thing with Billy Bats that getting if he was just another like a random character, it wouldn't really have mattered. But he was a made man, so basically, when they killed that character, they knew it was going to at some point invite retaliation from the mob because you basically killed the guy you shouldn't have killed. So yeah, that causes a lot of problems for them, or at least particularly for Tommy later in the film. But I think at one point, I don't know how far into the movie, like, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. So like, they set up a huge heist, which is I think the Luftwaffe heist at like one of the New York airports, and it's kind of like they're planning it out. It goes off basically without a hitch, and this is when Jimmy Conway's like, eventually, I don't know if he tells people this prior to this scene, but they're having a party to celebrate. I think it's like Christmas or New Year's or something. And a guy shows up with his wife, and they bought a new car. And Jimmy's like, "Hey, like, what did I tell you about spending a lot of money like right after we did this robbery?" He's like, "I told you not to do that." And he's the guy's like, "No, no, it's fine. Like, the car's in my mom's name, and it's like, or in my mother-in-law's name." And Jimmy's like, "I don't care. Just like get it out of here." I don't think he makes him get rid of it. But then another character walks in, and his wife has a mink coat on. And he's like, "You're walking in here with like a $20,000 mink, like." Take it back. Like I told you all not to like spend this money like this. And then this is the brief part with Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson's character was basically the getaway driver, and he was supposed to basically like after the robbery to basically get all the stuff out of the truck and dump the truck. And then in the voiceover, the narration, it says, well, instead he like went to his girlfriend's house, got stoned, and the police found the truck and were able to like get like lift prints off of it or whatever. So they show up. Tommy, Joe Pesci's character, and some other associates show up at Stax's house. I think it's like 11 in the morning or something because he does ask the time. And he's like, "Hey, like we got to get going, Stax. We're running late." And Stax like Stax like, "What time is it?" And he's like, "It's 11. We're supposed to be there at 9." He's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be ready in a second." And then he's like, "You be late to your own funeral." And then he shoots Stax because obviously he's a loose end now. So they get rid of him, and this is the scene with the coffee because he's like the other associate just goes to start making the coffee, and they're getting ready to leave, and he's got the coffee pot. He's like, what? Why are you bringing the coffee? This is just a great scene. But now also And I think this is so like they send. I think Paul Sorvino sends. I don't think it was Tommy. I think he sent like De Niro and yeah, because I don't think anything happened. I don't think Tommy ended up in jail, but like they send the guy Paul Sorvino's character Paulie sends him down to Tampa to deal with a guy who owes him money, and like they're gonna feed him to some lions or something, like drop him into. They're like we're gonna like take it to the thing. They're gonna like drop him into like the lion cage at the zoo if he doesn't pay up. So I think the guy eventually pays up, but then his like that guy's like sister-in-law or something was like worked as a typist for the FBI and was able to like identify him or something. So this is where Paul Sorvino's character and Ray Liotta's character end up in prison. I don't remember if De Niro ended up there or not, but I just vividly remember the prison stuff because they have like it's the whole prison cooking scene where you have Paul Sorvino slicing garlic with like a razor blade, and you have a guy like cooking like he's like it's veal, it's like veal pork and like cooking like what looks like really good food. Like honestly, like it like I kind of like think it looked really good. But Henry Hill smuggles in like the wine and like they have like a nice meal together and stuff like that. Henry Hill is also now involved in selling like drugs in the prison because I think like I don't remember if it was I think it's after they get out is when Paul Sorvino's like, hey, like don't get involved in drugs, but like he's got drugs coming in from Pittsburgh that he's distributing in prison. Like there's like a whole subplot where um, Henry Hill is like cheating on his wife, so his wife goes up to like the mistress's like apartment. It's like, let me in. I know you're cheating on my cheating on like, and like basically everybody is like spiraling at this point. Like um, De Niro's character is getting very paranoid. He's actually like getting a lot of the people that were involved in that heist killed. So like you just see him like taking out like anybody that's like worked with him. He's like going after. Things don't go well for Tommy. Like they do a thing where they're gonna make Tommy a main man, and everybody's like, they're like, oh, like this is gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great, but it's a trap. So basically, like it's retaliation for the whole Billy Bats thing. Like they drive them to where the like celebration is supposed to be. They open the door and it's an empty room, and you just see like Tommy for like a split second realizes what's going on, and then he just gets shot. And it was like again retaliation for killing a main man in Billy Bats. Like I said, De Niro's character is like killing off like basically almost anybody that's ever worked with him on that heist or anything like that. You have, and then you even have a scene where I think like De Niro is trying to get like Ray Liotta like to like take somebody out, and I think Ray Liotta's character at that point like realizes that like he's like, oh, he's trying to take me out as well. But then again, like they get involved. Henry Hill and his wife are just now super involved with drugs. This is where the editing gets kind of very sporadic. Like they're like selling drugs, they're on drugs. They get eventually get like busted. I think it's like a traffic stop or something, and like he gets like pulled over, and they got a bunch of like drug related stuff in the car. His wife like dumps a bag of like I think cocaine down like a drain, like 60 grand worth of cocaine gets dumped. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else that was. So there was that. There's a scene where, like I said, like one of the scenes that's very sporadically edited is when like it's Ray Liotta doing like 20 things at once. He's like, I gotta go deliver the silencers to Jimmy. I gotta go like make sure that like we take care of like the thing that needs to get taken care of. I need to make sure that dinner's ready. I need to like then go and get the money from this one other thing and do this thing. Like he's like delivering the silencers to De Niro. They don't fit. He's like, these don't fit. What the heck is going on? It's just great because like De Niro is just like super like pissed off. He's like in a bathrobe smoking a cigarette. He's like, I'm not buying these guns. Like none of the silencers fit. But then, like I said, eventually there's a traffic stop. I think Henry Hill gets arrested. The inspector does the thing where like if it's cocaine, like they lick it off your finger. The guy just smiles and it's like, all right, now you're obviously going to go away for a long time. Like again, because like I think like he was in prison. I think for like 4 years, got paroled at one point, and then decides to basically snitch on his friends, and then in the end, kind of credits before the credits, a little recap. It said that basically like Jimmy got sent to prison, and then so did Paulie, and things like that. There was another great like thing I I don't remember like who said the line. And watching it on this most recent rewatch, it was like just a huge amount of foreshadowing because it was like either it was like don't snitch on your friends and keep your mouth shut or something like it was like advice that Henry Hill got when he was a kid, and basically, obviously at the end of the movie he testified against Jimmy and Paulie, and then obviously like so didn't keep his mouth shut and snitched on his friends. Kind of some cool foreshadowing there. But I think that's going to do it for this video. This is just a fantastic film. Like I remember, like I probably skipped over chunks of the plot because there is a lot of like plot here, a lot of world building, so to speak. Especially like in the like first and second acts when Henry Hill is just getting established and starts going out with his wife and things like that. But yeah, it's just a fantastic film. Highly recommend it. Again, I'll try to leave a link in the description to see the Joe Pesci Academy Award speech because it's very short. He's basically just comes out, he's like, thank you, and leaves. But again, that's going to do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll be back again in a few days with our first video game of this new cycle. And then we'll be jumping back into 1991 and the rest of the decade. So thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.